The North Carolina Frontcourt, it's no secret, it was a team weakness last year, but now a nationally recognized strength.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Friday. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making this your first listener watch to get your weekend and your Friday going the right way. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now. I want to welcome in all the everydayers who are here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. If you want to join either or both of those groups, the link's in the show notes. We'd love to have you. Coming up on the show today, you remember last year when Carolina couldn't get a 5 to save their lives and it really, really hurt? Well, guess what? Now it is a strength and it's being recognized at a national level. And oh, by the way, that backcourt, it ain't too shabby either. For North Carolina football, we're just over a week away from the first game of the season. Remember, that'll happen on Labor Day, and still no quarterback announcement from Bill Belichick, and he's got jokes. Also, Project 28 ongoing. We've got some score updates from North Carolina sports. We'll get into all that today, but here's where we're starting. North Carolina Frontcourt. Isaac Trotter from CBS Sports is one of their national college basketball writers. He did a really cool article earlier this week on Wednesday entitled Ranking College Basketball's Best Players by Position. But here's the twist, and here's what I thought was really cool. It was not just point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It was not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What he did was developed 10 archetypes. And so rather than just the 5 positions, it was 10 types of player throughout basketball. And so here were his 10 archetypes. Initiator point guard, like think Kendall Marshall. Combo guard, shooting guard, true wing, scorer, creator, off-ball wing /4, wing handler, stretch 4/big, small ball big, like Luka kind of thing, and true 5, like we're talking like a legit center. And at all 10 of those archetypes, he provided in his article a top 5 at the position. And as I went through it, I was kind of bummed because the first 5 are all kind of backcourt wing positions. I was like, man, there's no Tar Heels in the top 5 at any of those. But then you get to the back half of his list, and it gets to the front court positions, those 5. Again, off-ball wing 4, wing handler, stretch 4 big, small ball big, and true 5. And wouldn't you know it, both of Carolina's presumptive front court starters, namely Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar, are in the top 5 of their positional archetype. For Caleb Wilson, Isaac Trotter classified him as an off-ball wing 4. He was 5th on that list nationally. Crazy stuff. Basically, the definition of this position, Trotter defined it as these wings can guard multiple positions, but they tend to have a smaller role offensively, usually operating as a spacer, cutter, or play finisher. And I think a tweak with Caleb Wilson is he is a little bit higher offensively than that, but I think there is a lot of correctness to that role definition for Caleb Wilson because he is going to be a very important defender for Carolina and is going to be very switchable in the way that Isaac Trotter's talking about with that position. He wrote a blurb on each of these top 5 at each position. Here's what Isaac Trotter said about Caleb Wilson. Wilson's athleticism, length, and defensive potential all pop off the tape. He should help UNC's rim defense go from a major weakness to a strength in 2025-26, and he can move his feet on the perimeter and swallow up space. While his offense will be a work in progress, his secondary playmaking should help UNC's offense have a few extra buttons to press. His motor defense and burgeoning ball skills should help him become one of UNC's best role players from the jump. And it doesn't stop there because, again, Henri Veesaar was also listed as top 5 at his position, which was the true 5, right? Like that actual legit center. He has him as the 3rd true 5 nationally Of all the pure, straight-up centers in the nation, Isaac Trotter is listing Henri Veesaar third. Here's what he said about that true five position. These centers tend to have excellent positional size, as he does, and almost always defend opposing centers. Think Ryan Kalkbrenner is what he said. And here's his blurb on Henri Veesaar. Veesaar is what the new age big man looks like. He can play multiple defensive coverages. He can stretch the floor as a shooter and find open cutters as a top of the key playmaker. He can hammer home dunks as a roller. He runs the floor like a gazelle. Arizona's defense was 14 points per possession better against top 100 teams with Veesaar on the floor, and he is a real deal shot blocker who plays quite hard. If Seth Trimble has an awesome year for UNC, Veesaar will be the man to thank for dragging defenders away from the rim. That, however many sentences that was, that paragraph about Henri Veesaar is glowing from Isaac Trotter. I mean, clearly Isaac knows what he's talking about because he's got a great name. But seriously, Henri Veesaar, Caleb Wilson, this combo, Isaac Trotter has both of them in his top five positionally for their positions. And you're like, okay, well, probably a lot of the other Power 5 conference schools have both front court players, because between the 5 archetypes in the front court and 5 players at each, that's 25. Nah. There were only 3 other schools who Isaac Trotter had both front court positions listed in the top 5 positions of their position. That would be UCLA with Eric Daly and Tyler Bilodeau, who Carolina played against last year. That would be Texas Tech with JT Toppin returning and Lawan Watts, who's transferring in. And then national champion Florida, who returns their entire front court. And he specifically lists Thomas Houck and Alex Condon for that. So the way we could summarize it and say it is North Carolina, at least according to Isaac Trotter, probably has the best front court in the ACC. And North Carolina has a top 5 front court in the entire nation. And look, I know you could haggle and argue and say whatever. Caleb Wilson's not played yet. Henri Veesaar has barely even started and really just came into his own last year. I get that and I hear it. But that doesn't mean it's not a thing. That means it can definitely come together. And oh, by the way, all of that doesn't even account yet for Jarin Stevenson, who, yes, underwhelmed in his 2 years at Alabama, but I'm going to keep ringing this bell until somebody steals the bell and I can't ring it anymore. Jarin Stevenson was not used in his best way at Alabama. Keep in mind, Jarin Stevenson was number 13 in the class of 2024 before he reclassed to 2023 and ultimately enrolled at Alabama because they had the playing time availability for him, whereas North Carolina did not. So you add Jarin Stevenson into that front court where he could play the 4 or the 5, along with the aforementioned Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar, plus all the rest of the depth in the front court, you know, with James Brown and Zayden High and whatever you want to look at. Those top 3 should be a dynamic trio. And again, could very well be the best front court in the ACC. And yes, that's even with Duke and Cam Boozer and Patrick Ngangba and Malik Brown, right? Like those are probably your top 2 considerations for front court legitimacy. And something I love about the blurb Isaac Trotter wrote about both Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar is it talked about their passing skills. And I think that's going to be critically important for Carolina this year in a season where they don't have an Elliot Cadeau as a true playmaking one, right? Like Kyan Evans, Coach Rob has said repeatedly this summer, he thinks he can do the playmaking that's necessary. But if so many of these other positions on the court are able to do it too, and I'm going to say more about that in the next segment, then you're in a good position. All of this to say, there's a lot of national disrespect about Carolina as a team. And we'll say more about that in a second. But at least for this front court, and at least for one college basketball writer at CBS Sports, Isaac Trotter, he believes in Carolina's front court. I like that. Maybe we should get him on the show and let him unpack it some more. So, Carolina front court, all in. Can't wait to see it. Let's get that national viability up. Now, while we've talked about the front court, we haven't even really mentioned Seth Trimble, Carolina's most accomplished returner outside of the blurb about Henri Veesaar, who also made Trotter's list. Oh, by the way, Isaac, I thought you said he wasn't top 5. He wasn't, but elsewhere, Isaac Trotter expanded. And we also haven't mentioned Luka Bogavac, who many project to be Carolina's leading scorer this year. So I want to say more about the backcourt side of this conversation in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day and a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So maybe you want to take a flyer on the MVP race. Why not take a hard look at Drake May, Carolina quarterback superb, who is now in New England? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you want to crown your champ. Why not the Eagles to repeat? Seems to make sense to me. They've got the best odds along with the Bills and the Ravens. Maybe you want to pick all 8 division winners and parlay with all those choices together. That'd be fun to let that ride a little bit, right? Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. So we've been talking about the Carolina front court, whom Isaac Trotter clearly thinks a lot of between his thoughts on Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar. But outside of his article on Twitter, Isaac Trotter gave actually a top 15 for each of his 10 archetypes, not just that top 5 that was in the article. The only other Tar Heel that made this list was Seth Trimble. He was the 10th ranked combo guard. So hear this. Trotter has 3/5 of Carolina's projected starting lineup in his top 10 positionally for their positions. And again, I know we're talking about 10 archetypes rather than 5. I get that, but whatever. He's got Seth Trimble in his combo guard section, and his definition of that role is these guards can play on or off the ball, true, and do a little bit of everything offensively. Think Walter Clayton Jr. From Florida. Obviously, Seth Trimble is not the shooter and the volume shooter that Walter Clayton was, but he's got his chutzpah. He's got more athleticism than Clayton, and he can do some other things that Clayton couldn't. And you add to that Seth Trimble coming back as a guy who really blossomed last year scoring-wise. I think has an even bigger year were it not for that injury, that head injury he suffered mid-season. And so he comes back, and clearly Isaac Trotter thinks a lot of him as well. And none of that accounts for Luka Bogavac, who is not listed on any of those. If I was thinking about it, or if I was projecting Bogavac onto one of those, I would put him probably onto that scorer creator, because like the guys that Trotter has on that scorer creator, let me get back to his list really quick, see if I can find it. Kind of screams what Bogavac is able to do. Here we go. Darren Peterson from Kansas, who's really a guard, but he scores and he creates for others and has that size. PJ Haggerty, that was at Memphis last year. Tahad Pettiford from Auburn. Luka's got that capability. I've been talking some with a guy actually from Montenegro who, has followed Bogavac all, and he's like, people have this wrong, casting him as a just a straight up wing. That's not it, Isaac, is what he's been telling me. People need to think bigger and more than that. And I'll unpack that more another time. But that's been kind of eye-opening for me, where it's like, okay, we need to think about Luka differently. I think Trotter doesn't have him on there because it's so hard to project what or who some of these Euro guys coming over are going to be. But if we look back at those 10 lists at the end of the season, I think Luka Bogavac could very well find his name on one of them, because there is a very real world where Luka Bogavac is North Carolina's leading scorer. There is a very real world where he is maybe the dominant playmaker for these Tar Heels. These are all things that we have to consider. And obviously, I've talked about 4 of the positions. I've not mentioned Kyan Evans. We'll see, what he translates into. That doesn't talk about Jonathan Powell. That doesn't talk about Isaiah Dennis or Derek Dixon, any of the rest of those guys that project to be backcourt rotation guys as well. And so there's just a wealth of possibility at Hubert Davis's disposal to be able to do that. But what's so interesting to me is we've been really concerned about, is Kyan Evans going to be the playmaker? Can he assist? Can he create for his teammates? But the more and more I think about these lineups, and particularly my projected starting five, which is Kyan Evans, Seth Trimble, Luka Bogavac, Caleb Wilson, and Henri Veesaar. We talked in the first segment about the passing capability and the playmaking capability of those two bigs. I just talked some about Luka Bogavac's playmaking ability and passing, which he has. It is a very strong aspect of his game. And we've seen it from Seth Trimble in his first 3 years. We know that, he's really, to me, at his best when he's getting out and running, but he clearly, I've talked many times over about how much his playmaking and has grown while his turnovers have gone down. And I love the spurts when he's doing that. And so even if Kyan isn't like a dominant playmaker, my projected starting five has the capability for all of them to share the ball well. And so I think this should be a really good passing, assisting, setting teammates up Carolina roster. And obviously I'm not talking within that about Jonathan Powell or Derek Dixon or Isaiah Dennis, but and that's not much of Powell's game. He's a shooter. But we've talked a lot about Derek Dixon being able to potentially step into some point guard duties if needed. And so there's just a lot there. And zooming back out from not just the front court and not just the back court, but this whole collective unit for Carolina, the whole team, the whole roster, the whole, everyone that projects to be in the rotation. It's so interesting to me because I feel like so many national entities have a lack of respect for Carolina as a whole, saying, oh, they spent all this money and they didn't get much and blah, 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 blah. I truly, not just the Carolina in me, because that I am the co-host of Locked On College Basketball. I look at teams all over the nation, and there's no reason to me that Carolina is or should be slept on at the level they are. Because you look at this conversation from Isaac Trotter, and he believes in a lot of these pieces for the Tar Heels. And there are others as well. And so it's hard for me to reconcile that individual love with the lack of team love from others, which is fine, right? I would rather be slept on and catch people by surprise than the 2022-23 season where you're preseason number one and you miss the tournament, right? Like, under promise, over deliver all day of the week is what I would much rather Carolina do. But, I've seen so many of these different outlets just bashing what Hubert Davis and Jim Tanner and the staff have done to put this roster together while praising and elevating State. Their starting center's going to be our leftovers, right? Van Allen Lubin was going to be Henri Veesaar's backup. So why yes, Darion Williams is going to be great coming over from Texas. It does not make a lick of sense to me. But go ahead, keep snoozing. Let Carolina jump up and bite you like a snake. And I can't wait for it. And I can't wait to point fingers and say, I told you so. Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you're keeping receipts because I can't wait to see them. All right. Now, Bill Belichick is famous for keeping a lot of stuff close to the vest. And the lead up to his first season at Carolina is no different. And oh, by the way, he's got jokes. Bill Belichick, man, I love his humor. I'm here for it. I'll explain what I mean coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Rougiette. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready, which is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control for when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer for you. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love that it's completely online. Rougiette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. So head on over to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. Again, that's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Now, individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Bill Belichick had a press conference on Wednesday as we're getting near to the start of the season. Remember, it's Labor Day, which is September 1st. At this point, like Saturday, Sunday, 10 days from now. That's crazy. It's here. But there's still no QB1 announcement. And this is getting more and more like the Mac Brown era where it would be game week, right? Like I think the one I always laugh about is going back to the Drake May, Jacoby Criswell year. It was like, we don't know who's going to be QB1. It's going to be Drake May, clearly. Come on, Coach Brown. What are we doing here? Anyway, at the press conference, about 2/3 of the way in, Pat Welter asked, Coach, how close do you think you are to naming a starting quarterback, and how would you evaluate that competition so far? And we're sitting here, we're going to get some news. He's going to talk about the battle and how Gio Lopez is doing and Mac Johnson's recovery and how Bryce Baker's coming along as a freshman, all this kind of stuff. Nah. My man Belichick's got jokes like always. I mean, classic Bill Belichick. And he says this. Yeah, we're getting ready to do that this afternoon. Announce the starting lineups and the play times and how we'll be substituting and everything. Brandon will get that to you as soon as we get done. We want to make sure we get that out there right away, end quote. I mean, just as dry as ever, as dry as Bill Belichick is ever going to say. I literally started laughing out loud because, and then he just goes on to the next thing, as Bill Belichick does, as though he hadn't just dropped this ridiculously hilarious joke, but just deadpan. I mean, deadpan. I don't see how we do it, man. I'd just start cracking up if I was trying to say something like that. The thing is, I cannot count the number of times I've said this offseason, like, remember back to Bill Belichick at New England. This is his MO. He's not going to give you anything more than he has to. He's going to keep all his cards close to his chest because he doesn't want you to see that he's got two pair or whatever it is. And here we are again, as you would expect. Why on earth would he name a quarterback or other things or depth chart until he has to, and he's forced to get it out there? So will it be Gio Lopez? Will it be Max Johnson? We just don't know. In the same way that every time somebody asks me, Isaac, Tar Heels, what are they going to do? My classic response has been they could win 4 games or 10 and nothing would surprise me. It's the same thing. I just do not know what to expect. We can all make some great assumptions about guys who are going to start and play and reps, but I guarantee you there are going to be surprises because it's Bill Belichick. They look for things that other people don't look for, and who knows? That's true of quarterback, and it's true of probably every position on the field as well. And I mean, keep in mind, Monday, 3 days from now, is essentially game week, right? Carolina won't play on Saturday, but they do play on the back end of Labor Day weekend, so 7 days after that. So I would imagine at some point in the next 3, 4, 5 days, we find out. Maybe, right? So we'll have to keep our eyes out for that. And it was really interesting, too. There was some conversation about with those guys being southpaws like myself, love a good lefty. How do you account for that, right? Like, because it's different in blindside coverage and all this. And so just Bill Belichick's so good talking about all those X and O's. I'd encourage you to go listen to the press conference on that if you haven't already. All right, guys, I want to wrap the show and the week by telling you that we have some actual Carolina action going on. Last week, it was just women's soccer, but now men's soccer is going on. We've had some scrimmages for field hockey and volleyball as well. In fact, both women's soccer and men's soccer are playing as we speak. Women, let me double check to see if it's still true. We're in a weather delay as I started recording. Let me see if they still are. Yes, about an hour ago, they entered a weather delay. It was about 13:43 into the match. Carolina is at Georgia. Nobody has scored yet. The Tar Heels, hopefully, will get back into action and be able to finish that one up. And then Sunday, the ladies host Rice back at home. The men are also playing right now as I record. They are hosting UCF. It was tied 1-1 at halftime, and they're into the second half now. The Tar Heels have taken a lead, 2-1, 56-08. So still about, 35? I can't count in real time. About 34 minutes left in the match. And then they host Seattle on Sunday. The men's soccer team does. Field hockey's had a couple scrimmages this week. They were at Wake on Tuesday. They're at App State today. I love it. 2 road scrimmages for field hockey. Way to go, Aaron Matson, get the girls out there. Their first regular season game is next Friday against Michigan up in Iowa. They always start with like an ACC Big Ten challenge. So the ladies play Michigan on Friday, and then they'll play Iowa on Sunday. Volleyball had an exhibition yesterday against Winthrop. Their first regular season game is next Saturday. That'll be against the Terps of Maryland, actually out in South Carolina, because then they also play Coastal Carolina. It'll be really good stuff. Y'all, it's so good to be hearing all that, because you know that means sports are here. It's going to be not very long, and we're going to be like, again, I know it's on a Monday, Labor Day, so it's going to be late, but we're going live after Carolina TCU, baby. I cannot wait for it. The Bill Belichick era is so close to being upon us. Get ready for that. Want to thank you all for being here with us again on a wrap up to the week here on Locked on Tar Heels. If you've not subscribed to the show already, make sure you do so now so that you don't miss a second of the show. If you're on YouTube, you just click right down there and there's the subscribe button. If you're listening on audio, make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. If you've not joined the Discord, we'd love to see you there, man. It's a great community of literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Tar Heels fans. Free to join. That link's in the show notes. Similarly, you want to go next level with Locked on Tar Heels? Join the Insiders, where you get to have one-on-one conversations with me. You get free access as part of that to all of my stats and charts and data. You can dive in on all of that. Would love to banter with you about it. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk again on Monday, but until then, peace.